Hello, lads and ladies. How are we doing? Welcome back. Sunday night means one thing. We've had a pretty eventful week in Sky Bet League One this weekend. And we had goals. We had new managers come in. We had shocks. We had last-minute winners. We had teams slowly taking their place in the third tier. I had the week off from Fleetwood. I got to Fleetwood. Let me know if you can see and hear me, by the way. Can you see and hear me? Let me know down in below as well. And if you are, just like while you're doing, press the like. That'd be very much appreciated. So I watched Bolton Wanderers against Blackpool. And then I watched bits of Lincoln against Wycombe. And then, if I'm honest with you, I got fed up. So I put the darts on and watched a little masterclass. So we are back. No Jake, no problem. We should have a guest coming in very soon, all being well as well. So as we wait for him to arrive, we will come to your comments. So if you could give us a like, subscribe, get your comments in, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone who voted for me to get to the Football Content Awards. It was greatly appreciated. It was a unbelievable feeling to get there. You know, it's a long way to travel. You know, me on the tube on my own isn't always necessarily a good thing, but really enjoyed it. Hello, Sophie. Yes, I've been all over there this weekend. I made about 8 videos last night. We can definitely see and hear you perfectly. Hope we're well. Let us know how your team got on this weekend. As we wait for Mr. Jigsaw, my mate Jack, to come in as well. The running order is coming on down below as well. Jake's not very well this evening as well. He's come down with defeatitis, where Lincoln City don't win a game, and he just doesn't want to. No, he's got man flu. I've got man flu. It's not nice, believe me. We're going through the ringer here, believe me. Doncaster, if you want to hear about that, you can come and join me tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for League 2 Live. We can see and hear you loud and clearly. So I will start off, and I will get Jack's opinion on, if he does make the show as well. Shrewsbury 3, Birmingham City 2. Well, that's the last thing I expected when I woke up that morning, believe me. Shrewsbury, you know, getting that win was vital for them. 3 wins, 2 wins now for the season. 3 wins for the season now. All when they score goals, regular, more than one. 3 against Orient, I think it was, 5 against Crawley. They score goals when they win games of football, regularly enough. But when they don't win, they're not scoring goals. That's their issue. So, yeah, it's been an issue this season for them this season. So, yeah. Birmingham City, though, losing the game of football is always disappointing because they've slipped to 4th now. That's 3 defeats on the spin. 3 games without a win now in League One. 2 1-1 draws and then this one. I am trying to get Jack currently set up as well. He's a bit new to technology, bless him. Shrewsbury, disappointing this season. They've not hit the heights. Paul Hurst never really got going. Gareth Ainsworth's come in, done a really good job. He did really good at Wycombe, where he built a foundation. He did well at QPR when he first came into the football club, kept them up. Unfortunately, couldn't quite work out long term. As we've got him in now, that was a kerfuffle. Here we are. Hello, son. How are we?
I'm all right. That was a very.
You're on mute, son. I can't hear you. Oh, I can't hear him. What an absolute shambles this is. I can't hear you, mate. Oh, hang on. Can I hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, my computer was on mute. You can't write it, can you? So, before we do get into it, this is Jack. He went to the same uni as me. He's an EFL journalist. How are we doing?
I'm all right. I'm very, very stressed after that. I've had to make about 4 different accounts. Ultimately, wouldn't let my YouTube account come on, but ultimately, on the 4th attempt, I've been able to. So I'm on here, and I'm looking forward to it then.
Absolutely. So I'll get your thoughts on Shrewsbury against Birmingham. Shrewsbury 3, Birmingham 2. Shrewsbury 3 matches now won this season. 5 goals against Crawley, 3 against Orient, 3 against Birmingham. Birmingham City conceded 3 goals for the first time in the third division since 1992. They've started really well. 3 goals conceded for the first time under Davis as well. 3 games without a win. How much do you read into that? Because they've come down with a bang, really. They started off with a draw, then went on a really good winning streak. Shrewsbury under Gareth Ainsworth now. Gareth Ainsworth, who's come in with a bang, really. Great result for them. 3 goals from set pieces. I think they had 90% less passes in the game. I think they had 66 passes in the game compared to Birmingham's 570 odd. It was a smash and grab, but they needed it, didn't they?
Yeah, they certainly did. I remember watching a 12:30 game very similar to this one earlier in the season. It was Birmingham against Mansfield. It was an extremely similar game with kind of Birmingham controlling possession, but not doing much with the ball, quite slow build-up play. And they just seemed quite blunt at times. This is actually the only game that I was able to watch live, the Shrewsbury-Birmingham game from the weekend, because obviously I was at Preston North End at 3 o'clock, but this game was frustrating from probably a Birmingham point of view, but for Shrewsbury, it's everything you'd expect with Gareth Ainsworth coming in. You know, you're bringing in. No, I think it's unfair to kind of call him a League One firefighter. You're bringing in a top League One manager who's proven that this style of play that he's done before works wonders. He did it with Wycombe Wanderers for however many years. And now with Shrewsbury, I think it's the best appointment they could have made.
100% agree with you there. I think that he is that type of manager that his football gets questioned, and if he would have played football like a Russell Martin, a Scott Lindsay, but didn't maybe get the results that they have done it in previous years. Maybe if he didn't get the results that he has done previously, but played better football, he'd been back in work, I think, sooner because of the style. And this is a problem now with management, I think, that you're more dictated on the style of football that you play rather than results. And he kept Wycombe in League Two, then got promoted, then kept them in League One with a steady season. I was actually at the game where I think it was a 0-0 or a 1-0 result for Wycombe on the day, and they stayed in the division. I think over 50, I think they got 52, 53 points that year. The next year, they were phenomenal. They brought in players like David Wheeler into the football club, experience that he knows to go alongside the Akin Fenwars, the Allsop, those types of players as well. And they did really well. Deservedly won promotion that year. It's a squad that needs a bit of love round it. They are going to have to be good at set pieces, second balls, which everything that Gareth Ainsworth has been good at. They were good for 90 minutes yesterday. They sat in a low block, got through it. Great result for Shrewsbury. Result of the day. Next up is Lincoln City 2, Wycombe 3. Jack, talk about Wycombe. Wycombe lost their first 2 games for the season. Granted, it was to Wrexham away 3-2 and Birmingham at home 3-2. Now, they're unbeaten in 13, winning 11 of which, and for the first time in the club's history, they've won 9 on the spin in all competitions as well. And they're just absolutely thriving. Lincoln have been pretty solid at home. They've only lost 3 games at home. Now that's to Wycombe, who are top of the table, Birmingham, who are 4th, and Barnsley, who are just in and around the playoff places as well. It's an unbelievable win against a good side. Scubala's done a really good job at Lincoln, but for Wycombe, they're playing football with a style, and they're scoring goals regularly. They're on 35 points, 35 goals. Last year, it took them 29 games to get to that tally. And we're only, 14, 15 games in. It's an absolute phenomenal start. And they're now beating good sides regularly. Kone, excellent yesterday in that win. They could have had 4 or 5. I thought low at the back. Keeping Morley is going to be vital. I think he'll go back in January to Bolton. How far do you reckon this side can come? Because you've always been one that managers don't get enough time. Well, Matt Bloomfield a year ago could have easily got sacked for the start he had. They weren't good enough, but they gave him time. They ended last season, I think they won something like 8 of the last 12, 8 of the last 13, and started this season phenomenally well.
Yeah, well, this was probably the game that intrigued me the most, because I think if you go back to when Michael Scubala was appointed as the Lincoln manager, I'm pretty sure obviously you're the stat man, but I'm pretty sure I've looked at it a couple of weeks ago, it's probably the same. The top 2 from that point, from when Scubala was appointed, Lincoln and Wycombe are the top 2 teams. So from the last year, obviously there's a lot of teams that haven't played a full season like they have, so like Birmingham City, etc. But from those teams that have been in League One, they've been consistently good. And it's like you say, Matt Bloomfield looked to be in a desperate position at Wycombe. He very easily could have been sacked. And this is why so many teams I think need to maybe just hold off and instead of firing the manager just when they go on a bad run, hold off and believe in the manager that you've appointed, believe in the strategy that he's got, give them faith. If you back your manager, then you kind of seeing the fruits of the labour now at Wycombe, and they're flying, aren't they? They really remind me, especially with the amount of goals they're scoring at the moment. I mean, 35 goals in 15 league games is unbelievable. They remind me of Plymouth Argyle when they went up, that they can just outscore teams. They might not be the most defensively secure team, and they might not have the best individuals in the team, but they find a way to score goals. And the whole story surrounding Richard Coney and where he's come from, for him now to be scoring on a consistent basis at the third division it's just incredible, isn't it? And I mean, I don't think anyone would have had Wycombe Wanderers if they at top of the table. Have you said who's going to be top as we head into? I know we've got midweek game, a couple of midweek games, but as we head into December, I don't think anyone would have said that Wycombe Wanderers would be up there, because there seems to be such a large gulf financially between the top teams in League One compared to maybe the likes of Wycombe and Lincoln, but they've been able to find a way to intelligently go around their business, and they've shown that you don't need to just splash cash to achieve good things.
Absolutely agree with you there. I think it's been a great start. They've got a great togetherness, and I actually listened to Gareth Ainsworth's podcast on Under the Caution. He was speaking nothing but highly, and Ainsworth left a foundation for Bloomfield there to go and achieve. And I said that about Danny Cowley. He did an unbelievable job there for John Messino to go in and pick the fruits of what he started, but go and finish and be the man to go and finish off. Talking about that, Ian Everett's done a fantastic job at Bolton Wanderers. Bolton have won 7 of their last 10, taking 22 points. And yet, every week you're going onto Twitter going, Everett out. They're not happy. 22.2 points per game. If you get that over the course of the season, you're going to get nearly 100 points. So that just shows you how sometimes you're getting results. However, these have come against the likes of Northampton, Reading at home, Blackpool, who are down there as well, Crawley, who are down there, Shrewsbury at home was a draw. They've lost to Stockport County away and lost to Birmingham away in that period as well. They did manage to beat Peterborough, which was a good result for them, and away at Stevenage, I thought they were fantastic in. So there has been good glimpses for them. And Blackpool have actually failed to win their last 11 away games at Bolton Wanderers, drawing 5, losing 6. Their last victory coming in 1986. And no other present League One side have lost fewer games in League One this season than Bolton Wanderers. Only Reading on 41 points have picked up more points than Bolton Wanderers. Bolton now picking up 39, and only Peterborough scoring 46 have scored more goals than Bolton Wanderers 37. So they have been strong at home, but a 60% win record for Bolton Wanderers at home in 2024. Something really to write home about, if I'm honest with you. I watched this one, Jack. First off, Blackpool stuck to a plan, got an early goal. From the run of play, really, I didn't think Bolton did enough. I thought Blackpool were poor, although they could have had 2, and that tells you everything you need to know. Second half, Bolton came out absolutely firing, and for the second year running, George Thomason scores a screamer from pretty much the same distance, a really good strike. And then Aaron Collins does what he does. He should have scored probably 5 minutes before. It's the woodwork. It's a nice, tidy finish as well. But again, it leaves Blackpool that stinking feeling. That's, again, they conceded late to Lincoln. They conceded late to Barnsley. They conceded late against Exeter, but ended up winning that game of football. Now here, this is their joint longest kind of winless run since the kind of 2020 time, where they went 8 games without a win. I think that was the end of the Simon Grayson spell before Neil Critchley came into the football club. Lost 5 of those 8 since winning those 4 in a row. What are you thinking about Blackpool this year? And Everett, do you think he's been a little bit hard done by? Because 2.2 points a game, 22 points. If they said you keep getting that, but again, performances haven't been great. I don't know what people want sometimes.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with the Everett one. I do think sometimes that ultimately Bolton Wanderers supporters, their opinion of the managerial situation, how their team is getting on, is much more important than mine, because I don't go on Bolton, I don't watch Bolton on a weekly basis. I pick up dribs and drabs of the statistics and watch highlight packages, etc. But I do think sometimes there can be a case of a manager being at a football club for a certain period, and especially when he's quite an abrasive character, some of the things that he comes out with can wind a lot of supporters up. But ultimately, you look at his time there, he's improved on season. I know this season, perhaps if the season finished now, it would have been improvement, but the season doesn't finish after 15 games. The level with 5th place Huddersfield, Barnsley, Lincoln, and Reading, who probably would all be pretty chuffed with their starts to the season. So they're on 26 points. As you say, the form they've been on has been excellent. So, yeah, it's an interesting one with Everton. I was really happy that he stuck with him after that difficult period at the start of the season. I think it can be very easy from an ownership point of view to, when the fans seemingly turn, to just go with that to keep them on side. But they believe they've got a good manager. He's proven he's been a good manager so far during his managerial career at Barrow and at Bolton. I had them as my league winners. They're probably not going to go on to win the league, but I'd still have relative confidence that they probably will go on to finish in the top 6. In terms of Blackpool, I think this is what happens when, again, coming back to the managerial point of view, but I think it's a major storyline here. When you sack a manager after 2 games into the season, no matter whether the fans had turned or not, and no matter whether was it a 3-0 loss against Stockport that saw Critchley lose his job, but you sack a manager 2 games into the season. I was sunning myself in Tunisia, and I remember the news came through that Critchley had been sacked, and I was like, how can you sack a manager after 2 games, bring someone in and expect Steve Bruce, who, don't get me wrong, was a really good appointment, I thought, on the face of it. And I'm sure he probably will turn it around there. But he's working with players that he's not had a pre-season with. He's working with players he hasn't brought in. But he's basically having a whole season with a team that's not his. I just thought it was ludicrous to sack Critchley after 2 games. He could have done that in the summer if they thought they needed to make the change. But I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right, Blackpool. They've got enough quality in the ranks to stay away from the relegation zone.
I agree with you there. And when Bruce went, because of obviously unfortunate issues off the pitch, which is genuinely awful, I genuinely thought that the players basically, they aren't good enough anyway. They went from a back 3 to a back 4, and I was calling them for that. However, they aren't quite good enough to play that way. The wing backs are. And if you were to ask me where Blackpool are short, I think they're a goalkeeper short. Richard O'Donnell could have had nearly made 3 or 4 howlers yesterday. I think the full backs aren't good enough. I thought a fire at the back was brilliant. I thought different gravy. Really, really impressed me. Lee Evans, if you stop Lee Evans, you stop Blackpool. So then all of a sudden, I don't think Sonny Carey or a Norburn can get you through a game. And I don't think as a forward area, I don't look at them and think I get scared. Kyle Joseph, I think he's on his best season scoring. His best season scoring is a 9-goal season. He's not going to be prolific. Jordan Rhodes is 34 now. So there is issues there for Blackpool. I think this season they're going to be miles off the playoffs. I think that we could see them, Barnsley, Lincoln, all miss out because they're just short in certain areas where others aren't. Stockport County aren't short in some areas. They might be in January if Louis Barry is to go back. Louis Barry now 13 goals for the season for him, scored 12 and 13th. He is now the top goal scorer in all 4 divisions of English football, the top 4 divisions. 22 goals in 38 league games across League 1 and League 2 while at Stockport County. Won the first 3 games of the season. Then they had to be patient. Only won 1 in 8, but only lost 1 in 8 at that time as well. They were brilliant yesterday. Louis Barry for the first goal drove the ball about 50 yards. Then it came to Louis Bate. We all talk about midfielders running forwards, playing forwards, getting into difficult areas as well. Hinchcliffe has come back in and given them a new kind of experience at the back. 27.2 average age. You take Hinchcliffe out, you're down to 26.3 yesterday. So he does add that age bracket up a little bit as well. Burton Albion are struggling at the bottom end of the table. Again, they failed to win their last 6 games against newly promoted teams, losing 4 of which, last beaten Exeter in 2023 of 2 seasons ago now. Great result for County. An unbelievable response to losing 5-0 to Wycombe. You know, they beat Reading just before that 4-1, but to beat Bolton, to beat Wrexham, and they'll go away at Burton, not concede, score 9 goals. It's fantastic, isn't it? And Dave Challinger's never finished outside the players in a full season. Got sacked too quickly at Fylde, went to Hartlepool, did unbelievable things there. it's a really good feel-good factor. I did a tactical breakdown for Football Park on County, and they're a fascinating watch.
Yeah, they are. He and Stockport County fans won't like this one, but I actually, when I saw that Mark Robins got sacked at Coventry, I thought it probably won't be. They probably wouldn't appoint him, which he doesn't like. They would, and probably wasn't even considered. But I think he would have been a really good appointment. I think he's a good enough manager. He's proven throughout his career that he can manage in the Championship. I'm really happy for him because I used to go on AFC Fylde a lot, and I was gobsmacked when he got sacked just after a poor start to the season after all the good work he did at Fylde. So I'm really happy that he's been able to take Stockport on this ride. And don't get us wrong, of course they've got a bit of more than a bit of financial back, and they're able to bring in some top players. And Oliver Norwood playing in League One is ridiculous, but they're not just relying on him. And even though Louis Barry scored the most goals, I don't think it's heavily reliant on Barry bailing them out. They're winning by big margins, as you say, because it's probably likely that Louis Barry probably won't stick around. You're not sure, but probably screams. I think Michael Carrick would love him at Middlesbrough, to be honest. He screams
like a loan spell to the Championship.
He screams a Championship level player for me. I think he's showing that he's too good for the level. But Stockport have got enough good players in their ranks anyway. I mean, you just look at the list of attackers that they've got and attacking midfielders as well. There's plenty of players on the bench that can bring that quality as well. And I'm happy to see Stockport do very well. I think they're a very well-run club. And where are they in the league now? The third. Well, yeah, top three.
Played more games than Birmingham, but they're comfortably inside the top six.
Yeah, and I'd back them to kind of stay in and around there. I'd probably back them over Wrexham to be the ones to stick around the automatic promotion places. I think the way they're able to mix it up, be bit pragmatic at times, be free-flowing at times. They're not just kind of stuck in one way, which is, as you said before, it's, watching Southampton before against Liverpool. I mean, I just can't believe that Russell Martin's a Premier League level manager, because you've got to have an element of being able to mix it, which Dave Challoner has shown throughout his managerial career. And that's perhaps where Burton Albion are going wrong, that they have gone from one end of the spectrum. So they've gone from being, these they stay up on the last day. They play five at the back. The very long ball. Thinking of the team under Dino Maria that was quite successful for a period of time. So all of a sudden, bringing 20 odd players through the door. 22 players through the door. Bringing a whole new manager in, a manager who didn't do particularly great at Wimbledon when he was in League One. And then to try and play this possession-heavy base style and completely change it in one summer, it just seemed it seemed ridiculous to me. And I think it's a club and I think they've signed some decent players. Don't get me wrong in the summer, but I don't think they're buying players that are good enough to play this style of football against some of the teams they're coming up against. And unfortunately for Burton, I think they need a reset. I think a relegation would actually do them quite well, to be honest. I think they need a reset, go down to League Two, where they'll be one of the bigger fishes in the pond, and play a different style of play in a lower division. Obviously, they wouldn't want to see that, but 8 points now, 8 points from safety. It's seen stranger things happen, but I think they really could do with just hitting the reset button.
One thing I'll say on Burton, they remind me very much of Fleetwood last year. But in a totally different way, we had ownership issues, managerial issues, players that didn't want to be at the football club, where we needed a reset. Sometimes you need short-term pain for long-term gain. And what I mean by that is a relegation to come back at year in, something to kind of, twin on that as well. So, look, 22 new players and you were saying you need a reset. That's when you know things are going wrong at a football club. If you are new around here, drop us a subscription. We are 162 away from 16,000 subscribers. It's free to do so. So please drop us a subscription. Also like the stream. it would go a long way as well. Can we try and get 100 likes? That'd be unbelievable. Wrexham 3, Exeter 0. Exeter had the best defence going into this one. Super Joe Whitworth, Kramer, Gary Carwell's done an unbelievable job. Going back to the managerial stuff of trusting in it. This time last year, they started really well. Won 6 of the first 8, drew 1, lost 1. The next 13, they didn't win. I think they only got something like 4 points from a possible 39. Some hammerings in there as well. 7-0, I think, this time last year to Bolton Wanderers. But look, they go away at Wrexham. It's a tough game. You know, again, what Wrexham are good at: set pieces, corners, crosses, getting balls out wide, getting balls back to front very quickly. You know, in transition, and they're not a long ball team with it. They don't need a lot of possession as well, and it's unbelievable. You know, Exeter City, I think, are a really good side, set up well, and I think they'll easily go and finish on 60 plus points. Wrexham, again, we mentioned Dave Challen. I think Phil Parkinson's well adjured, knows what he's doing, knows how to set a team up. And you look at if you said what to Bolton fans, what do you think of him? You know, you look at what the Bradford fans think of him. You know, he is that type of side that will get the ball, you know, into forward areas. And he's not one of these traditionally who's going to have 500-600 passes per game like a Mike Williamson, like a Scott Lindsay, like a Russell Martin. But he will win games of football. You know, it's quite. I actually would rather watch a Phil Parkinson team than a Russell Martin side because he gets the ball. You know, he gets you off your seat regularly enough, and they win games of football. This is a side that has had a lot of injuries. Okonkwo, you know, Murray are out for long-term injuries as well, and they're winning games of football, Jack.
They are, and they're winning games at football, particularly at home as well. I mean, their record, 8 games, 7 wins, 1 draw, no losses at home is just unbelievable. There's a real good, as you'd expect there would be, a real good atmosphere around the place. Phil Parkinson is a really good manager to have at this level, I think. I'm happy, again, for him that he's been out, because I think there's been a lot, as you say, from other supporter groups that have, you know, when he was at Sunderland or Bolton, that he wasn't well liked, but he's been in and around, and he's done well at a lot of teams that have kind of embraced his style of play, embraced the way he wants to go about things. I mean, I remember his Bradford side. Was he in charge of Bradford when they got to the final of the EFL Cup? I'm pretty sure he was.
I think he was. He got into League Two, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he was the manager when they got into the when they lost to Swansea in the final, but he is just, they've really bought into him, and I'm really happy for that, because I think some, you know, big financial groups may look for this more romantic style of football, or maybe look for a younger, more trendy manager, which Phil Parkinson is not. But as it's just been pointed out there by one of the comments that I've just seen, that goal, was it Ollie Palmer's goal? Built up to the back. It was unbelievable. Was it Ryan Barnett who crossed that in? He's been doing it all season. He's got an unbelievable whip on him. Every time I watch Wrexham highlights, most of the goals seem to come from Ryan Barnett whipping a ball in or creating.
He's got 6 assists.
Yeah, and that's from wing back as well. And then you have James McLean on the other side, which it's just such a fantastic partnership to have. I think I had them in my top 2, which I think surprised quite a few of my friends when I said that I thought they would go again. But I just love the way they're embracing this kind of style of play, bringing in older heads, a bit like when Newcastle United brought in all those old heads during the early 90s to support Keegan, and you know, they're doing that, but they now need to start doing it away from home as well, because they are quite inconsistent in that sense. Away from home, they're not as strongly, won 2 of their 8. For Exeter, they've got a tough run coming up, haven't they? I remember when they were towards the top end of the division, and actually, if you looked at it, and fair play to them, because they're one of the probably lower budgets in the league. A lot of people wouldn't have expected them to do that well, but they were beating the teams in and around them. They have recently, obviously, played Charlton, Lincoln, and Wrexham. The next 4 games are unbelievably hard. They've got Birmingham, Wycombe, Stockport, and Barnsley. That's an unbelievable run. And quickly, you lose 4 of those, which you probably expect them to lose. And I'm not going to write them off now, but you lose 4 of those, they're probably closer towards the relegation zone, and you start to see a more clear picture of their season. But let's not get it wrong. Let's not get it wrong, and let's not beat around the bush. Gary Caldwell's doing an excellent job, and defensively, there's not many more solid teams, is there? must be one of the best. Must have one of the best records in terms of clean sheets and stopping out opposition.
100%. You know, Joe Whitworth is 20 years of age, and I got asked on Football Park to give my top 5 kind of youngsters, and I went, he's number 1, and he is up there with one of the best goalkeepers this year, not just for his clean sheets, but his goal prevention as well. And I like these, because if you look at their past loanees over the last few years in League One, they've always got a good loanee. You look at Jay Stansfield as well, being one of them as well. That's a bit closer to home, obviously, with his dad as well. But Joe Whitworth is another one as well. And clubs like Exeter have to rely on those loan spells, but they are hard-working teams. And I said to Jake this as well, because he made a comment about Exeter and Mansfield starting the season well. Can they continue it? But I said, well, look, if they lost, say that they got 2 draws, 2 defeats, and you looked at that record after 18, 19, 20 games, and you said to them at the start of the year, you'd have won this amount, drawn this amount, lost this amount, they'd have taken it. So it is context sometimes at the end of the day. We will move on. Peterborough United with an average age of 23.9 yesterday. Young guns against another young squad in Reading. Reading have won a league away match against Peterborough United for the first time since November 2001. Also, they won that game by 2-1, having gone winless in their last 4 games against them, drawing 2, losing 2. Harvey Knibb scored a brace, and it's good to see because he is a player that runs forward, gets forward. He's a big figure in the heart of kind of the attacking midfield role as well. And Peterborough again, vintage to watch. They've been involved in 61 goals now this season, the most in the EFL. Scoring 32, conceding 29. Manny Fernandez, an absolute beast, by the way, towering into the box to get a consolation. But they just look so easy to attack against. And I made a comparison about Peterborough that when they are on it, they are the best side to watch, I think, in the League One and one of the best in the EFL at the current level, because they make it look easily. They get loads of goals. Their expectation of goals is up there. They create chance after chance. They're in your face. Kwame Poku's on. When you've got kind of, Ricky J. Jones on, Mothersill on, those types of players. But they're not on it enough. They're either a 9 or a 5. They're not often enough a 7 or an 8, like I'd say a Lincoln or like I say a Stockport or like Birmingham. If they're not at it, they're a 6 or a 7, and that's where they've got to improve. It's good to see Reading win away, because I think they only won 4 games away last year. They've already won 2. They've struggled away from home. I remember when I think they got that result at Wycombe this time last year that ended the drought of a year away from home without a win. Great result. They deserved it as well, I thought. And Peterborough hit them. They won 6-0 a few weeks ago, and 6-1, I think. So, back to this. I still think that this year they're at the start of the 2-year cycle to go again next year.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. And I think that analogy of Peterborough can kind of be said the same to a lesser extent. But for last year, is that when they were on it, they were the best team in the league, I thought. They were my pick to win the playoffs last year when we got into the playoff stage. But we saw how inconsistent they can be. And perhaps that's down to having a young squad, but that is the model, and you've got to be enamoured with that kind of model that Peterborough have got, because they always produce these younger players that they can sell on for more money and make really, really good profit off it. I hope Peterborough will stick with Darren Ferguson. We've been here before. We've been here quite a lot. But I don't think there's many better managers at playing an entertaining style of football and developing youngsters at the same time. For Peterborough, they lost so much talent over in the summer and now you look at the side, a lot of recruitment came from the National League, perhaps relying on Kwame Poku to provide goals at times. He's probably one of the best players, if not the best in the league. But ultimately, the 12th in the league. They've scored the second most goals. They've conceded the second most goals. It's entertaining. And as you say, they're in probably a 2-year cycle. I'd have faith for Ferguson that, he'll get them into the style this year. And then next year will be the time to kick on and get a real playoff or promotion push. But if you're a Peterborough United fan, you have to say you're entertained by what you're seeing.
I think it was an owner of a championship club that came out recently and actually said they'd rather draw 3-3 than win 1-0. And that's what Peterborough remind me of, that they are that type of... And he said he'd rather win 6-2 than 2-0. He'd rather concede goals but score lots, because then you're getting punters coming back and then you're getting attackers getting the goals. Kwame Poku stepped up this year. They've lost... He was a great player last year, but he was just... Well, he's just another one of what we've got. You know, he's in the queue of Harrison Burrows, Ronnie Edwards, Mason Clark. They go, all of a sudden, he's now the man. And that's hard, because he had to, you know, pass around, is he right or he's going on the left? Always mix it, fit around Mason Clark. Really good to see that they're, kind of getting the best out of him regularly enough. And we'll go to Charlton now, because they are an interesting one, Jack, that they start the season really well. And I said it's not sustainable, because if you look at their victories, it came against Birmingham, they came against Bolton, won 1-0 away at Wigan and Shrewsbury in that first 6, and they drew 1, they lost 1. They then lost 3 on the spin, then they drew a couple, beat Birmingham, then kind of drawn 3, and then lost the last 2 games as well. And I basically said, because at the start of the season, they were in the bottom 4 for expected goals, bottom 4 for shots on target. The good thing is that they've got the lowest expected goals conceded, and that's what you expect with Nathan Jones, a tight-knitted defence that can go and win the game 1-0. And at the start of the season, when you're winning games of football, it's like, Gaffer, this team is together. But then when performances don't improve, you get punished in key moments in games, late in the season, as you get tired and your team start to work you out. And it is an issue. They've not won in the last 5, 1 win in 9. And now kind of expected goals has increased to 15th, shots on target 18th, lowest expected goals conceded, which is good. But again, they don't offer enough in games as well. Greg Doherty actually getting sent off at a key point in the game yesterday after scoring the goal as well. First red card for him in 213 games in the FL and 130 over in Scotland as well. But what Huddersfield are good at is what Charlton are good at, but Huddersfield do it regularly enough, where good from set pieces, win games of football by the odd goal or 2 goals. Typical Duff side. He has gone in there, stamped his authority on that side, and we're seeing what he did at Cheltenham and at Barnsley in League One and League.
Yeah, no, bang on with that. I think Michael Duff was a really good appointment for Huddersfield. I thought as well that Nathan Jones was a good appointment. There's definitely quite a bit of pressure, I imagine, on his shoulders now. But for Duff, I think it was a difficult job to go into, because Huddersfield, for the last couple of seasons, or the last year at least, they were losing games on a consistent basis. It was horrible. The atmosphere around the club, the players, it must have been, really low on morale to lose so consistently. So to kind of go in and to completely change it, and yes, they've got a good team, but I don't think they went and spent loads of money or, completely changed the squad. A lot of the squad, the core members of the squad, are probably the same players that were playing last year. But Michael Duff is probably doing the job that he was doing at Barnsley, but with a better group of players, I would probably say. And I think if they carry on going the way they're going, because if you take out, and I know you can't just take it out, if you take out that, they had a middle spell, didn't they? Where I know they beat Bolton 4-0 away from home, but in between that, they lost 5 or 6 games in a row. If you take that out, they're the best team in the league. And I know you can't just take that out, but they are starting to kind of consistently look like a side that are probably going to win the home games, draw their away games, average 2+ points per game. And as you say, Duff is probably doing what Nathan Jones is doing, but on a better scale. And Nathan Jones, it's a concern, because they've got a good team there. They've got some good players. He was able to bring in some wily old veterans, some EFL veterans, I think that's fair to say. And it's tough for Nathan Jones, because, like you say, you start the season so well, and that fan base, and I don't want to go in on the fan base at all again, but they have seen so many managers over the years that they probably expect to see change as soon as there's a bad run or you're not meeting expectations. Right, what do we do? Snap your fingers, let's make a change. I think at some point you've just kind of got to back a manager. You've got to embrace having a manager that has clearly shown that he's a good manager, at Luton Town, did really well in the Championship with there. He built the foundations to make Luton the side that got up to the Premier League. He needs time, I think. Just watching the comments come through there, I found that interesting on Michael Duff. I think him going to Swansea, probably he just didn't suit what they needed. This Swansea City, I watched them before against Leeds. They like to play out from the back. They like to have a young manager that encourages them to play and develop players. Michael Duff's not that, and they should have known that he wasn't that. But Huddersfield Town, a good Huddersfield Town team was David Wagner's team, Carlos Corberan's team, and they were quite, they built on defensive foundations. They were good from set pieces, and I think Duff will do a really good job there. And I think they, for me, are probably a certainty at least to finish in the top 6.
Couldn't agree more about the style. I think that's bang on. He's not quite suited to that. If you haven't already, make sure you like the show. We're very close to 50 likes and 160 now away from 10k. It's free to do, so just press subscribe. It helps the channel out, grow. We've hit a bit of a dull patch because no Fleetwood games, international breaks, they're over now, so lots of content coming your way as well. Crawley 1, Rotherham 0. Rotherham have now lost their last 6 league last 6 games against newly promoted sides away from home, and it's their longest run since 1995. Again, they only lost 3 in the first 11. They weren't winning. They were kind of winning, drawing, losing, drawing, winning, losing. They weren't ever getting 2-3 wins. I think they've only won back-to-back games once this season, and that came away from home at Cambridge last minute, and they won at home somewhere as well. They've now lost 4 of the last 5. It got pretty ugly at Oatwell after the last game against Barnsley. Here again, they didn't create too much away. They've got one of the oldest ages in the team. Crawley, again, slowly building up under Rob Elliott. Took a bit of time to get used to the style, but they've been getting better at home. Great result for the Red Men. The Millers, I know we don't like talking about managerial sackings, but Steve Evans, if you look at the last 16 games, even at Stevenage, I went through this, and I'll come back to when we compare it to Stevenage in about 10 minutes or so. He only won 3 of his last 16 at Stevenage as well, losing 7, drawing 6. So if you look at it, the last 30 games, he's not really done very well. So is there issues there, Jack?
Well, there's definitely issues. I think on Stevenage, obviously, there's different expectations between managing Stevenage in League One to managing Rotherham in League One. And initially, when they were doing all the business, I remember saying to one of my mates, I was like, they're going to go up this year. And then eventually all these other League One teams started doing the business, and Birmingham City started, coming in and going, right, we're going to buy that, we're going to get this. And there was a sea of probably 10 or 11 Championship teams, League One teams, that I was like, these could go up this year. And you're like, right. And now you look at the Rotherham United squad with a bit of hindsight. I don't know the average age and stuff, but it looks quite old. It looks like quite a tired team. And it's probably players you would probably say are players that Steve Evans likes to have and kind of enjoys working with. And Steve Evans is someone that I'd have backed to do an excellent job at Rotherham. But for them to be in the league at the moment where they are, it's not great. The underlying data and the stats say they should be doing a lot better, but then you've probably got to take into account game state because they're going behind in a lot of games. So naturally, you're going to have more shots on target, create more XG because of game state, because the side's 1-0 down and they're pushing. They're going down 1-0 a lot in games, which is always difficult to bounce back from. I worry for Steve Evans, especially probably coming against Crawley. And all due respect to Crawley, probably a game that Rotherham United fans travelling to that game would expect to get something from. To only have 6 shots, it's not great, and they've got a difficult run coming up as well. So yeah, I'm not sure, because I really like Steve Evans as a manager, and I don't think you become a bad manager overnight, but something's not working there, is it? And I'm not sure what they're going to do.
to answer your question, Rotherham's average age 27. That's only the 8th highest in the team. Shrewsbury, Blackpool, Northampton, Cambridge, Wrexham, Stevenage, all higher. Mansfield expected average age yesterday was 31.5. And I thought, I knew Clubby liked an old boy, but that's taking it to a new extremes as well. We've currently got 61 in the live show. Currently, 60% of these people who watch the show live aren't subscribing, so make sure you click that subscribe button. We are going to rattle through the games now. Barnsley 0, Wigan 1. Thelo Asgard's goal made all the difference. Before the game, Wigan had lost 3 of their last 4 games. Again, as many in their last 15 games beforehand. Wigan, first winning 5 against Barnsley, and I've never actually lost an away game against Barnsley in their last 8 visits, winning 4, drawing 4. Again, Barnsley, it's their first defeat at home since the opening day of the season. Barnsley remind me very much of Lincoln and Blackpool at the moment. They're missing something in a forward area. They're not consistent enough. They concede a goal at home, and they don't always have the ability to score more than their opponent at home. Wigan, again, and at a young average age yesterday. What do you expect from Sean Maloney? Great result.
Yeah, it's a really good result. And if you look at the stats as a whole, I think it was 6 shots to Wigan, 20 shots to Barnsley, more on target from Barnsley. But in the first half, where Wigan scored the goal late on in the first half through Asgard, it was 4 shots and 3 shots. So it was a very even first half, which you kind of expect from Maloney in the sense of most games seem to be very tight and very low scoring, don't they? But he needed that, because if they lost yesterday, which I'm sure, Barnsley were my pick in my EFL fantasy team. I'm absolutely fuming that they didn't pick up the win, because I've lost out on points there. But I thought Barnsley were a banker at home against Wigan. But Wigan would have been in the relegation zone. They'd have been in the bottom 4, which is it's unacceptable from Wigan's point of view. So he really needed that win, because he's had a couple seasons now at Wigan. I find them very dull to follow and watch. I've watched them on a couple of occasions. Someone I know quite well is a Wigan Athletic fan, and he's quite a big Maloney supporter. But I just find it extremely dull. I mean, Wigan are obviously only 4 points difference from Peterborough with a game in hand, but it's much more fun going to watch Darren Ferguson and Peterborough United than it is going to watch Wigan. And I don't know whether the expectation should be lower now, even though they're a relatively big club in League One. I still think they've got quite a good side and a good young side, but I know they've won, so I shouldn't really be negative, but I just expected more from Wigan. And I think Sean Maloney is going to have to sort it out. He's going to have to get more wins like this to keep himself in a job. But maybe I'm being tough.
I think you are. If I'm honest with you, I think Sean Maloney's been let down with recruitment. If you look in January, they lost Callum Lang, Charlie White, 2 biggest earners. Then they go and lose Charlie Hughes, probably the best player of last year, with Sam Tickle in goal. So they've been very heavily reliant on loans, I feel, as well. And they have got a good squad. I think that because last year nobody expected anything from Wigan, when it was realistically a good squad that should finish 12th in the league, and they probably did overachieve a little bit at the start. They had that momentum, and I thought he did a terrific job in adversity. And then this year he's probably doing as expected, maybe a bit less than expected, but it's all about winning games of football. They haven't been doing that enough. I am confident that'll turn around. I really am. I think that they have been in games, they've just been getting on the wrong side. Mansfield 0, Bristol Rovers 1. Great result for Rovers. Mansfield slowly, results maybe turning a little bit, but for Bristol Rovers, it's a big result for Matt Taylor.
Yeah, it's huge. He was probably another manager that was under quite a lot of pressure, but that win lifts them up to 13th in the league. That is a big, big win for Bristol Rovers, because especially when they got rid of Joey Barton and then replaced him with Matt Taylor kind of coming in, I think there was almost an expectation that now it's a time for Rovers to kick on. And again, it's difficult in League One. There's so many good teams, but 13th is probably whereabouts you expect them to be. The data is really not kind on Bristol Rovers, and it really wasn't kind on Mansfield either at the start of the season. They were quite low down on I'm a bit of a slave for data, if you can't tell, but they're quite low down on a lot of statistical points at Mansfield. But they were doing well at the start of the season. They were edging out tight games. But Mansfield, from watching these highlights, were the better team in the game. The ball just wouldn't end up in the back of the net. And for Bristol Rovers, it's a win, perhaps at times against the wall, but it's a big win, and hopefully does relieve a bit of pressure for Matt Taylor, because he is a good manager. He did a very good job at Exeter, did a pretty solid job at Rotherham in terms of keeping them up. But yeah, it's not the happiest of places to be at the moment for the Gas, is it? But the 13th in the league, can't complain too much.
Absolutely. I think we can fly through these two. Northampton 0, Cambridge 0. Cambridge 4 points away from home this season. Northampton now unbeaten in their last 3 games against Cambridge. Again, slowly picking up those points. It's another point gain for the Cobblers, I see this as. Cambridge, maybe a couple of weeks ago, they'd have lost that game 1-0. It's decent, they've kept a clean sheet. Look, they won, 3 in the spin, 5 in all comps, lost to Peterborough, which all of a sudden puts a spin on it. But back with a clean sheet, back with a point away from home. They'd have taken it before the game, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have done. It's a good point for Cambridge. Again, another manager that got a bit of a back in and has done pretty well since then. For Northampton, am I being harsh again here, Ben? You can tell me, but I did think some of the signings they made in the summer were good players. You know, Tyler Roberts coming in, even some of the older players, Martin Waghorn, Tom Eaves, they brought in a lot of attacking quality. Tariq Fosu-Henry, Karen McGeegan. You know, they've got some good players in that team now. I think Northampton, for me, expectations should start to kind of rise after, you know, a couple of really good seasons under John Brady. And I'm not saying Brady should be under any trouble, because he's done an excellent job there, but should they start expecting to win these sort of games at home against Cambridge when they're bringing in players of that quality?
It's tough, because Callum Morton obviously came back in, got injured straight away. McGeeman, I thought, was a good signing, but never really cut it at League One level. I think he's played at this level for Portsmouth, Scunthorpe, and a bit for Barnsley as well. It did very well for Colchester. I think he got 9 goals, 5 assists for Colchester last year. He did very well while there. Left, jumped up a level. Waghorn was a later signing. I thought Foster was a great signing since he's come in. I think that they have regressed a little bit, but you lose, big players. You know, it was always going to happen. It really was. I think, yeah, obviously the lad that went to MK Dons, Birmingham signed the best midfielder there last year as well. So I thought he was the best player in the league at times, in his position as well. So I thought it was always going to happen. But I think anywhere safe in League One for Northampton and Cambridge are good seasons. They're not a great watch, like you said about Wigan, but they get the job done. Stevenage 0, Leyton Orient 0. Talk me through it. What do you think of this one? Because Stevenage are very dull to watch. Lowest expected goals in the division. Joint fewest goals since being in the EFL. 11 in 16 now. Most ever clean sheets, though, since being in the EFL. 8 at this point of the season, this is, by the way. Conceded the fewest goals in the EFL history, but they don't look like they're going to score goals.
Was there even a point watching these highlights? I mean, when I looked at it and I saw, not only was it a 0-0, but then, I don't think I've ever seen stats so low. 4 shots for Stevenage, 3 shots for Leyton Orient. When I was at Preston North End versus Derby County yesterday, I thought that was a drab watch. Well, I don't even know how they found a highlights package to show of this game. Yeah, Stevenage might not be a good watch, but with the budget they've got and the players they've got, and especially from Steve Evans, kind of leave them high and dry, and Alex Ravel coming in, who didn't have the best record in his previous spell, I think they're doing pretty well, aren't they? Defensively, very sound, very solid. Cole Piergiani just keeps going, doesn't he? I can't believe. Was he playing National League at one point a couple of seasons ago? I mean, that just looks ridiculous now for him now to be for him to now be in League One and doing so well. For Leyton Orient, I think they're a better side than what their position says at the moment. I think they're a pretty solid team. They can score goals at times as well. But yeah, that was. I'm just happy I wasn't at that game, because that must have been how in a football game of 90 plus minutes can you only see 7 shots? Like, what are they doing? Why can't you just have a pop shot?
Yeah, it's very interesting because they're both similar managers. Obviously, Wellens is a lot more experienced with his time at Oldham, Swindon, Salford, and obviously Leyton Orient as well. But people are getting on the back of Alex Ravel, and they won away at Mansfield really well, and they've been on a dry run since. If you compare Steve Evans' last 16 games for Stevenage compared to Alex Ravel's first 16, Ravel's won 6, Evans won 3, defeats 7 each, points 19 to 15, scored 11 to 12, conceded 16 to 16. So Ravel is similar in some metrics, but better in a lot of metrics. They are a door watch and they draw a lot of games 0-0. Leyton Orient, again, just didn't really get going in the game. Maybe last year they would have won that 1-0. They're just struggling in front of goal to create that one bit of spark. And that's the difference between a team that are going to be in the bottom 8 to the next 8. That's the difference with Leyton Orient and Stevenage at this moment in time. That has been a roundup. We are going to have 2 or 3 more minutes. If you've got any questions for myself or Jack. Jack, I just want to ask you, who would you say, if I was to ask you, obviously, would be your top 6 and bottom 4 from what you've seen from League One so far?
Wow. Really put me under the hot seat. Top 6, I will go in any order. Just top 2. I'll have a top 2. Top 2, I'll go Huddersfield. I think we'll be in the top 2, and I think I think Birmingham will probably finish in the top 2. They've got enough quality there. Harsh on Wycombe, I know, but yeah, Wycombe I'll have in the top 6. Wrexham I'll have in the top 6. Stockport I'll have in the top 6, and we'll go either Barnsley or Bolton. Either Barnsley or Bolton for me.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to have a video out very soon of my updated predictions halfway through. We always do one at the start, one at midway, and then maybe one with like 10 games to go, just of the top 6 and the bottom 4 as well. Please make sure you like. We're 2 likes away from 50, and we're very close to that 16,000 subscriber mark. But before I do go, thank you very much for Jack for filling in the last minute. Jack, thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, it was all right once I was able to come on. God, that was... I thought you were going to have to do it solo, but we made it in the end.
I used to call him Jigsaw. I thought those names wouldn't have to come out again.
Ah, yes, they were enjoyable times during lockdown, weren't they? God.
Oh, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Again, a quick power hour of the division. Shrewsbury beat Birmingham City. Bolton, are they back on track? 7 wins in 10. Again, League One is the emotional roller coaster that is. A big thanks to Jack as well. Go and follow him on the socials. Where can they all find you, Jack?
X, or Twitter, as it once was known, is probably the best place to go and find me with my tag there. You'll see many managerial crusades coming out.
Yeah, and it's been nice to have a good co-host for now. I don't normally get that privilege on this channel. But again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you later. Please give us a like and subscribe on your way out. If you do want some more EFL content, we'll be back live tomorrow with Sky Bet League 2 Live. The fun never stops. Enjoy your week. Up the Cods, up the League One.